What is up, guys, and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. So first of all, there's some construction going on outside my house, so if there's anything with voice or anything in the background, just that's why. So today we're checking out a leak, or supposed leak, from a Blizzard insider, and I'm going to read through pretty much the entire thing, or as much as possible at least, and I will also leave a link to the leak itself in the description, so you can go and check it out for yourself if you want to read the entire leak without my voice. So let's just go right into it and check it out. So basically this leak goes through a lot of things, basically the state of the game, Activision, Blizzard, Final Fantasy, pretty much everything going on in the company, and it's up to us to kind of figure out if it's a real or if it's a fake leak. Now I'll give my opinions on that towards the end of the video, but let's just go and check it out. So the leak itself looks like this, and this is what it reads as well. So Shadowlands is a shit show, critical response, player drop off, and just about every engagement metric outside of the cash shop has been catastrophic. No higher up expected this, because of their "we are too big to fail, if we built it they will come" mentality. They refuse to accept their focus on the world being a begrudged mechanic to funnel players to raiding is not appealing to the player base at large because it appeals to them. They have spent the last 4 months trying to course correct, but there is no solid direction, and the response to 9.1 has only made things worse. So based on this first thing right here, the first sentence, or the first article, whatever, it reminds me a lot of Warlords, and the way I'm thinking is they're probably gonna cut out 9.3, just make 9.1, be done with the entire thing, and come out with an expansion early 2022. At least that's what I think they should do, just to kind of give us something fresh. So Sylvanas is planned to replace the Arbiter, despite so many people in the company, and God knows how many people online, saying this would be a total replication of Kerrigan's storyline in StarCraft 2 that has killed non-competitive interest in the brand entirely, and you can only go no, they will like it eventually, for so many real-world years before it's time to change course. Thus far that has not happened, so I'm not really familiar with that, not going to comment on it. So the elephant in the room is Final Fantasy. To the people in charge, they are acting like this came out of nowhere, and don't even seem to understand why it's drawing players away in their tens of thousands. We have all tried to highlight things it is doing that are clearly appealing to an MMO audience, and not, in my opinion, focusing more on mobile game-style retention traps to keep monthly active users and habit-forming personalities logging in. It is not that they don't care, they just seem so pig-headed and digging their heels in with their fingers in their ears, thinking all the problems will go away because WoW is too big to fail. There will never be real competition, and they will keep coming back, but they aren't coming back anymore, and not in the numbers they used to. So this seems like it's true so far, like too big to fail is definitely a mentality, or a sentence as well that I've heard a lot, and the thing that, right here, that the higher-ups doesn't seem to understand why it's drawing players away in their tens of thousands, well, they should at least try to, because Final Fantasy isn't necessarily drawing players from World of Warcraft, because Final Fantasy is the best game of all time. It's more like World of Warcraft is in a bad state right now, and it's for Blizzard, or the developers of World of Warcraft, to find out why it's in a bad state, and also why players are going away. Players are not just going to Final Fantasy. Based on my votes here on YouTube, a lot of people have unsubbed to WoW and went on to different games based on just how WoW is doing. Not just how WoW is doing, but how they are reacting to it. They are not fixing their game and stuff like that as well. So it's not that Final Fantasy is the best game in the world, it is just that WoW is in a bad state, and they need to do something to fix it. So the people making the choices know this. The new model for WoW is market the hell out of a expansion pack for a huge quarter, then use 6-month lock-ins to pad numbers for the quarters after that. And this is basically true, we've seen this happen over and over. They release a new expansion, then the next quarter after that, they use a 6-month sub because of the expansion hype. So people are more like, well, this is a good expansion, I'm going to play it for 6 months, and then they buy the sub, and a lot of people quit after 2 to 3 months. Usually you get a free mount as well with your pack or with your 6-month sub, so they are basically incentivizing you to pay for 6 months just so they can get a better quarter. The mood in the company is tense, but also it's just a rough transition period. That is wrong, they should not think like this. Once again, think about why people are leaving your game and try to make it better. Don't just say it's just a rough transition period. Try to understand why players are leaving and fix it. Activision has been pushing hard for Blizzard to release more regular product and to generate more income per user. This is something they've done as well. I think further down the leak, I've read this before, and they say that they are making more money even though people are leaving because of the cash shop. The sentiment that was shared quietly in private, but being spoken more often, is simply that the leadership at Blizzard are not bad people, nor incompetent people, but people who had to fill seats left when the old guard jumped ship, whether they are suited for it or not. Brack is a genuinely good man out of his depth. Ian is a fantastic raid designer put in charge of designing a virtual world that he has no interest or real ideas for, and so on. They have been taking form the roles they excel at to be put in positions where they get to do far less of that purely because there is nobody left with the experience to do so. And the trickle down is a lack of concrete direction, ambition, and focus. Basically, a lot of people have been leaving the company, and they're basically putting the best man in for number 2, or like the best backup person to fill that position, which also makes sense. Now the last part of the leak that I want to focus on is this part right here, which basically reads like this. Lastly, the biggest elephant in the room is your boy Asmongold. The newer hires cannot stand him. They have used terms like toxic masculinity and dog whistles to dangerous males, while some of the oldest crowd still remaining have called him based, or telling it like it is, which has led to friction, to put it mildly. People are told not to talk about him, and the recent Final Fantasy stuff only made it all the worse. The idea that an outside element can have such an effect on the product genuinely upsets people. Like Zack is engaging in some malicious act of cyberwarfare, there we go. Many of us have pointed out the now famous quote by Naoki Yoshida about understanding that players will drift, and we need to make something worth coming back to, because they want to butt some people, for the lack of a better word, to see our customers, or consumers, as they refer to them nowadays, as some kind of antagonistic relationship, where the goal is not going to be an entertainer putting on a show for a crowd, but some kind of game hunter trying to trap a large, profitable kill. I wish I could blame Activision for this, but this is a sentiment from the more of the younger crowd than the tech boomers, which personal opinion is probably why so many folks like the Metzen and Morheim left the company. So basically what's happened here is that Asmongold is trying out Final Fantasy, and someone with a lot of generic titles on Twitter made a tweet telling people to report Asmongold and his fanboys, or whatever, people that also try out Final Fantasy and play with Asmongold. They told them to mass report them, and someone from Blizzard replied to the tweet to signal boost it, but also said Asmongold is an asshole, which is fine. You can think whatever you want, you can have your opinions about a guy, but whenever you're working at Blizzard and on your verified Twitter account, you shouldn't really say those things. Asmongold is a huge content creator, streamer, and YouTuber for World of Warcraft, and by insulting him, you're not really doing yourself any favors. Like, Asmongold doesn't care, that's one thing, but whenever you are insulting him, you're also insulting his player base, and they are not really going to like you whenever you are insulting their favorite content creator. By you insulting him, you're pretty much insulting them, but also you're basically just making them not like you or your game based on you insulting their favorite content creator, if that makes sense. So whenever you have opinions like that, shut up, keep it to yourself, or definitely don't post it on your verified Twitter account, that 100% got verified because you work at Blizzard. I'm also going to read a couple of comments from the Reddit post that I think is really good and pretty much sums up the entire thing. So first of all, while it's their prerogative to turn the game into a job with strict set of daily tasks that you need to do to advance your on-the-rails treadmill grind, and it's my prerogative to play a much jankier, but ultimately much more fun version of the game. Also, two things. Number one, retail progression is ridiculously incremental. When you get an upgrade, it's like a 1 to 2% upgrade, and you won't see a substantial jump in performance outside of a few busted trinkets. All gear is now essentially needs to be farmed, not once but 3 or 4 times over and over, repeating the exact same content for the exact same item drops, except the numbers are slightly bigger. Classic content feels finite, but it has a clear, defined end goal that I can work towards. In retail, that goal is constantly moving. I never feel done because there's always more shit that I need to check off. It's made logging in to characters even slightly behind feel super daunting. And I can attest to this. Whenever I'm playing Shadowlands, or I used to, and even now as well for 9.1 whenever I come back, I have one main, and if I log on to any other character than that main, I feel like I'm so far behind everyone else, and I have to catch up. It's not that I want to catch up, it's that you have to. And whenever I play my main as well, it's not like I want to do dailies, or I want to do weekly quests, but I have to. You have to not just catch up, but you have to stay caught up as well. And there's so many things that you have to do in the game that you don't really want to do, that playing the game has become more like a job. It's not something you don't log in because you want to, but you log in because you have to. And speaking for the last couple of years, even in BFA as well, and actually even in Legion as well, you came back from work or you came back from school, and I didn't really feel like I wanted to log on to the game, but I felt like I have to. I was like, well, I have 2 hours left, and I have to do this, I have to do this, and I have to do this. Maybe I can squeeze all of that into a 2-hour gaming session. For example, one way to explain this is the renown grind. In Shadowlands you have a renown grind, you can get maybe 2 to 3 per week, and I don't really understand why you have to do those weekly quests. If you go back to Legion, you had Artifact Power and Artifact Knowledge. Artifact Knowledge increased by 1 per week, up to 41. Then since patch 7.3.0, all characters started at rank 41, while increasing automatically every week by 1 up to 55. So instead of just having the renown where you have to do weekly quests, you have to do 2 or 3 weekly quests, which is just like burning half an hour of your time, per character by the way. Why not just have it automatic? Just increase automatically by 1 or maybe 2 every single week, and then also put in the campaigns as well. So basically the same system that we have right now, where you get renown from the campaign quests, and also just cut out all of the weekly quests, because those are just time sinks. We don't need them, and I don't really think anyone wants them. One final thing I'll say on the Final Fantasy versus World of Warcraft subject is that I have friends who play Final Fantasy, and whenever I ask them why they play Final Fantasy, it is basically that they can log onto the game whenever they want to, and they can log off whenever they want to, without feeling like they have to do one or the other. Basically, they can log onto the game 1 time per week and still have fun and not feel like they're being left behind. If you log on to WoW once per week, you will feel left behind. Maybe you can log on once per week, you can do your raids, you can do your Mythic Plus, you can do your weekly quest, you can do your daily quest for that day. If you smash out all of that content in one day, you are fine, but the question is, are you enjoying yourself? Because if you're doing all those things, you're once again just doing chores. While whenever you're doing Final Fantasy, you can log on once per week, you can have some fun, go to the Golden Saucer, you can go do have some fun. Golden Saucer is basically the better version of Darkmoon Faire, by the way, but it's basically a question of how can you make it more fun. You don't want players to log into your game because they have to, you want them to log in because they want to. So that is where I'm going to leave it, guys. Ultimately, the leak I think is fake. The leak, I think, is fake, but it has a lot of good information that is probably true. So it's a very well guessed leak. It could be real as well, but I think it's fake, but it has a lot of valid points. Let me know in the comments if you think it's real or fake, and that's pretty much it. For more World of Warcraft content, make sure you subscribe, slap that like button as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon.